Ashley and I, we were the textbook definition of a high school romance. She was the kind of girl everyone noticed, confident, smart, with this smile that could light up a room. And somehow, she picked me. I don't know why, but back then, it felt like I'd won the lottery. We got married at 25. Yeah, I know. Too young, dude, my friend said. But Ashley made it sound so perfect. Why wait, she'd said, flashing that killer smile of hers. We're in love. Isn't that all that matters? Spoiler, it's not. The first few months were smooth sailing. We set up our little apartment, argued over where to hang the one piece of art we owned, and ate way too much takeout on the couch. It felt like home. Easy. Like we were playing house but with real bills and bad Wi-Fi. Honestly, I thought we were killing it. And then, cracks. Tiny ones at first. Stuff I barely noticed. Like the way Ashley would sigh dramatically when I didn't fold the laundry exactly her way. Or how she dropped these little digs disguised as jokes. You know, Zach, if you were just a teensy bit more ambitious, you could be running your company by now. Just saying. It got worse. Do you ever think about, I don't know, doing more with your life? She asked one night, swirling her wine like we were in some indie film. I was mid-bite of leftover pizza. I like my life. It's fine? Wrong answer. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might strain something. Fine isn't exactly inspiring, Zach. That's when it hit me. She wasn't happy. Not with me, not with us. I didn't know what to do with that, so I did what I always did. I tried harder. Date nights. Surprise flowers. Hell, I even started folding the towels her way. None of it worked. Then one night, she dropped the nuke. I've been thinking about this for a while, she said, looking everywhere except at me. I just don't think we're right for each other anymore. My brain short-circuited. Right for each other? Ashley, we're married? Isn't the whole point to figure stuff out? Zach, this isn't something we can fix. Therapy, breaks, whatever. None of that's going to change how I feel. And that was it. No second chances. No discussion. She'd made up her mind, and apparently, the rest of my life wasn't part of her plan anymore. I sat there in silence while she got up and walked away, like she'd just crossed another thing off her to-do list. Looking back now, the signs were all there. But in that moment, all I could think was, seriously? I should have just ordered pizza for one. After the big, we need to talk moment, things got weird. Ashley and I decided to stay in the same apartment while we figured things out. Bad idea. If you ever want to truly test your patience, try living with someone who's emotionally checked out but still there physically. It's like being haunted by a ghost, except the ghost keeps leaving passive-aggressive post-it notes. At first, it was civil. We kept to ourselves, avoided unnecessary conversations, and pretended everything was fine. But the cracks kept widening. She moved into the second bedroom, and we started this awkward dance where we'd avoid bumping into each other in the kitchen. When we did talk, it was short and transactional. "Did you pay the electric bill?" she asked one morning, not looking up from her phone. "Yeah," I said, pouring coffee. "Cool," she replied, walking out of the room before I could ask how her day was going. I figured we'd be able to ride it out, but Ashley? She had other plans. She started going out. A lot. At first it was just girls' nights or work dinners, but then it became almost every other night. She'd come home late smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, dressed in outfits that screamed single and ready to mingle. One night, she came back around midnight. I was still up, scrolling through Netflix, pretending to care about some random documentary. She breezed past me, tossing her clutch onto the table. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Late night?" She barely glanced at me. "Had drinks with friends?" "Cool," I replied, trying not to sound too interested. But inside, my mind was racing. Drinks with friends? Or someone else? I told myself it wasn't my business anymore. She'd made it clear we were done, and I wasn't about to start a fight over something I couldn't prove. But that didn't stop the thoughts. Who was she meeting? What was she doing? And why did I still care? Meanwhile, I was playing the role of emotionally unavailable roommate. I kept my head down, did my part around the apartment, and tried not to let her behavior get to me. But let me tell you, it's hard not to notice when someone suddenly starts putting in extra effort. She was working out more, dressing up more, and wearing makeup like she was auditioning for The Bachelor. One day, I made the mistake of asking about it. "You've been going out a lot lately," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Everything okay?" She raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Why? Jealous?" I laughed, but it came out more bitter than I intended. "Just curious." "Well," she said, flipping her hair over her shoulder, "I figured I might as well enjoy myself. Life's too short to be stuck in a dead-end situation." Ouch, that one stung, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I nodded, muttered something like, "Good for you," and walked away. By this point, I was mentally done. The silent treatment, the late nights, the snide comments, it was all too much. But I wasn't ready to leave just yet. Part of me still hoped she'd wake up one day and realize she'd made a mistake. Spoiler, that didn't happen. The turning point came a few weeks later. I was cleaning up in the living room when I saw her phone on the couch, screen lighting up with a message. Normally, I'd never snoop, but something told me to look. The message preview said, "Had such a great time last night. Can't wait to see you again." It was from some guy named Derek. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. That one line told me everything I needed to know. She was moving on, and I was still stuck, hoping for something that clearly wasn't going to happen. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how I'd let myself get here. How did I go from being her husband to being this guy she barely even acknowledged? And why was I still holding on? The morning after I saw that message on Ashley's phone, something clicked. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was more like clarity, the kind that hits you after you've been stuck in the dark for way too long. If Ashley was moving on, then why the hell wasn't I? That weekend, I decided to stop being a ghost in my own life. My friend Ryan had been bugging me for weeks to hit up this bar downtown, so I finally said yes. I wasn't expecting much, just some drinks, maybe a chance to forget about Ashley for a few hours. What I got instead was Amber. I spotted her the second I walked in. She was sitting at the bar, laughing with a friend, and it wasn't the polite, "I'm trying to be cute" kind of laugh. It was loud and real, like she couldn't care less who was watching. Something about that hit me. She looked free. Ryan nudged me. "Dude, stop staring and just go talk to her." "Yeah, because that won't be awkward at all," I muttered, taking another sip of my beer. But the truth was, I wanted to. It wasn't like I was looking for anything serious. I just wanted to feel normal again, like I wasn't this sad guy waiting for his life to start over. Somehow, I worked up the nerve. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat next to her. "What's a guy gotta do to get a laugh like that?" She turned to me, still smiling. "Be funny. Think you can handle that?" Okay, so she was quick. I liked that. "Depends. You got a sense of humor, or am I about to bomb?" "Try me," she said, leaning in like she was genuinely interested. We started talking, and before I knew it, hours had passed. Amber wasn't like Ashley. She didn't size me up or ask what I did for a living like it was some kind of test. She asked me about the dumbest things, like my favorite sandwich or whether I thought cats could be trained to fetch. And for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Ashley. I wasn't thinking about anything except how easy it felt to just be there, talking to her. By the end of the night, she scribbled her number on a napkin and handed it to me with a grin. "Call me," she said, and just like that, she was gone. The next day, I stared at that napkin like it was a puzzle I couldn't solve. Part of me wanted to call her right away, but another part felt guilty. Even though Ashley had made it crystal clear we were over, there was this little voice in my head saying, "It's too soon." But that night, Ashley came home after work. She threw some papers on the shelf and then went about her appearance. Then she put on one of those dresses she saved for special occasions. Her hair was done, her makeup perfect, and she smelled like some fancy perfume I'd never smelled before. She barely looked at me as she grabbed her keys and headed for the door. "Going somewhere?" I asked, not really expecting an answer. "Just out," she said, her tone dismissive. "Don't wait up." And that was it. No explanation, no attempt to pretend like she wasn't moving on. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at the empty doorway, and then I picked up my phone and called Amber. After my call, Amber and I started seeing each other periodically and spending time together. We kept it casual at first, drinks, movies, the kind of stuff that doesn't require a lot of emotional investment. Amber was easy to be around, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. I started dressing better, hitting the gym, and actually paying attention to how I looked. It wasn't for Amber exactly, but she made me want to feel good about myself. Of course, Ashley noticed. "You've been out a lot lately," she said one morning as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "Yeah," I replied, keeping it short. "What's her name?" she asked, her tone sharp. I raised an eyebrow. "Why does it matter?" Ashley set down her mug, crossing her arms. "Because we're still married, Zach. You couldn't wait until the papers were signed?" The funny thing is that Ashley was the initiator of the divorce, but she was in no hurry to file the papers. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "Ashley, you've been going out for months. Do you really want to talk about who couldn't wait?" Her face twisted, like she couldn't decide whether to be angry or embarrassed. "It's different," she said finally. "Sure it is," I said, grabbing my keys and heading for the door. That was the first time I realized Ashley wasn't just annoyed, she was jealous. And that jealousy, it was about to blow up in the messiest way possible. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. If Ashley was jealous before, she hid it pretty well. But after that morning in the kitchen, something shifted. She started watching me like a hawk, asking more questions than she had in months. "Where are you going?" she'd ask as I grabbed my jacket. "Out." "With who?" "Does it matter?" I'd say, throwing it back at her like a boomerang. Her lips would press into a thin line, and she'd stomp off without another word. For someone who was supposedly done with me, she sure seemed invested in where I spent my time. At first, I tried to brush it off, but it was clear. Ashley hated that I was moving on. And the more obvious it became that I was done pining for her, the worse she got. One night, Amber and I were out for drinks when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ashley. "Ashley, are you planning to come home tonight, or should I just assume you're too busy with your new girlfriend?" I stared at the screen, half laughing, half incredulous. Amber noticed and raised an eyebrow. "Trouble in paradise?" "Not paradise," I said, shaking my head. "Just Ashley being Ashley." She leaned over to read the text. "Wow, subtle," I texted back. "Not that it's any of your business, but yes, I'll be home later." By the time I walked into the apartment that night, I was prepared for a fight. What I wasn't prepared for was Ashley sitting on the couch, arms crossed, looking like she'd been rehearsing her lines for hours. "So," she started, her voice icy, "you're really just gonna flaunt this new girl in my face?" I set my keys down and sighed. "Ashley, it's not like that. And you've been out every other night for months. You don't get to play the victim here." Her eyes narrowed. "It is like that. You're cheating on me." That made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the hypocrisy was off the charts. "Cheating? Ashley, you wanted a divorce. You moved into the guest room. You've been going out with guys while I was still trying to figure out how to save this mess. And now you're upset because I finally stopped waiting around?" She stood up, pointing a finger at me like she was about to give a courtroom closing argument. "We're still married, Zach. That means you're cheating." I threw my hands in the air. "You're unbelievable. This is exactly why we're in this situation in the first place. You always have to be the one in control. God forbid I do something for myself." Her voice rose to a shout. "This isn't about control. This is about respect, Zach. You couldn't even wait until the papers were signed, I snapped. Respect? You've been disrespecting me for months, Ashley. And you know what? I'm done feeling bad about moving on when you made it clear I was never enough for you. She froze, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. For a second, I thought that was it, that she'd finally back down. But then she hit me with the dagger. Well, don't come crying to me when your little fling blows up in your face. Girls like that don't stick around for losers. And there it was, the Ashley I'd been dealing with all along. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my bag and headed to my room, slamming the door behind me. Let her stew in her own bitterness. I wasn't playing her games anymore. The next day, she upped the ante. I woke up to find out she'd been talking to our mutual friends, telling them I was cheating and that I'd ruined our marriage. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. But then the texts started rolling in. Ryan. Hey man, Ashley's been saying some stuff about you. You good? Kara. I heard what happened with Ashley. I just want to say I'm here if you need to talk. It was clear. She wasn't just angry. I'd bruised her ego. And now she was on a mission to make sure I came out looking like the bad guy. But the funny thing about people like Ashley, the more they try to control the narrative, the more obvious it becomes who's really at fault. Amber noticed the change in me over the next couple of days. You okay? She asked as we sat in a coffee shop. Yeah, I said, though I wasn't sure it was true. Just dealing with some fallout. She tilted her head, giving me that look like she could see right through me. You want to talk about it? I sighed. Ashley's been telling people I cheated. She's trying to make me the bad guy so she can save face. Amber shrugged. Let her. Anyone who knows you won't buy it. And honestly, if they do, screw 'em. Her words hit harder than I expected. For so long, I'd been bending over backward to keep the peace, to make everyone happy, even Ashley, when she clearly didn't deserve it. But Amber was right. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, least of all Ashley. By the end of that week, I was done playing defense. Ashley could say whatever she wanted, but I wasn't going to let her control my life anymore. I wasn't the same guy who'd let her walk all over me. Not anymore. After days of dodging Ashley's passive-aggressive texts and ignoring her rumors, I finally reached my limit. This wasn't sustainable. Living in the same apartment, constantly walking on eggshells, it was draining me. If Ashley wasn't going to take the next step, then I'd do it for her. So, I called a lawyer. Hey, I need help with a divorce, I said, my voice more confident than I felt. My wife, ex-wife really, wants out, but she hasn't done anything about it. The lawyer, a no-nonsense guy named Carter, chuckled. Let me guess, she wanted the divorce but figured you'd handle the dirty work? Exactly, I replied. She's been dragging this out for months. I'm done waiting. Carter walked me through the process. It wasn't as complicated as I'd thought, just a mountain of paperwork and a few decisions to make. By the end of the call, I had a clear plan. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was taking charge. The next morning, I started packing. I wasn't just getting my stuff together, I was getting my life together. Every box I filled felt like a small victory, a step closer to finally leaving this toxic mess behind. Ashley noticed, of course. What are you doing? She asked, standing in the doorway of the bedroom as I shoved clothes into a suitcase. I'm leaving, I said simply, not even bothering to look up. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean you're leaving? I mean I'm done, Ashley, I said, finally meeting her gaze. I found a new place. I'll be out of here by the weekend. She crossed her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Wow, so you're just running away, huh? No, I said, standing up straight. I'm doing what you should have done months ago. You wanted this divorce, remember? You were the one who said we had no future. But instead of handling it, you've been sitting here, doing nothing, hoping I'd stay stuck. Well, I'm not. Ashley's face flushed red. I wasn't doing nothing. I was giving us time. Time for what? I snapped. To keep playing this stupid game where we act like strangers living in the same apartment? To drag this out until we hate each other even more? No, Ashley. You want it out, and I'm making it official. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope with the divorce papers. Here, I said, holding it out to her. These are for you. I had them drawn up yesterday. She stared at the envelope like it was a snake about to bite her. You're serious? Dead serious, I replied. You said you wanted a divorce, but you never filed anything. So I did. All you have to do is sign. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. You really think you're the hero here, don't you? This isn't about being a hero, I said calmly. It's about moving on. You've been stuck in this limbo because it lets you keep control. Well, not anymore. I'm done letting you dictate how this ends. Her laughter stopped, and for the first time in months, I saw something real in her expression. Uncertainty. Maybe even regret. But it was too late for that. I grabbed the suitcase and headed for the door. You wanted this, Ashley, I said over my shoulder. So now you've got it. As I walked out of the apartment, I felt lighter. For the first time since this whole mess started, I wasn't looking back. Ashley could stew in her own decisions all she wanted. Me? I was finally free. A week before the divorce hearing, Ashley called me. I almost didn't pick up. After everything, I wasn't exactly eager to hear her voice, but something told me to answer. Zach, she started, her tone softer than I'd expected. Can we talk? I sighed. About what? Not over the phone, she said quickly. Can we meet somewhere, please? Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near my new apartment. She was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table, nervously stirring a latte. It was a strange sight. Ashley, the queen of confidence, actually looking uncertain for once. I sat down, keeping my distance. All right, Ashley. What's this about? She took a deep breath, avoiding my eyes. Zach, I've been thinking, maybe we're rushing into this. I frowned. Rushing into what? The divorce, she said quickly. I mean, we've been through a lot, and maybe we shouldn't give up so easily. Maybe we can fix this. I blinked, trying to process what I was hearing. Fix this? Ashley, you're the one who wanted the divorce. I know, she said, her voice breaking just a little. But I was upset. I wasn't thinking straight. I said things I didn't mean. We were good once, Zach. We can be good again. I let out a bitter laugh. You're kidding, right? Ashley, you checked out of this marriage months ago. You were going out every other night, talking to other guys. And now, because I've finally moved on, you want to pretend like this can be fixed? Her expression hardened. I wasn't cheating. I raised an eyebrow. You weren't faithful. Let's not pretend you were just out having drinks with friends. You made it clear you were done with me. I was angry, she shot back. And I'm willing to forgive you for what you did. That stopped me in my tracks. I stared at her, genuinely dumbfounded. Forgive me? For what? For Amber, she said, her tone sharp now. You know what I'm talking about. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A loud, honest laugh that made a few people in the coffee shop turn to look at us. You've got to be kidding me, I said, shaking my head. Ashley, you were the one who started going out and meeting other guys. You were the one who gave up on this marriage. All I did was find someone who actually treats me like a human being. And now you want to play the victim? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a hiss. You don't get it, do you? You embarrassed me, Zach. You made me look like a fool. Oh, so that's what this is about, I said, leaning back in my chair. Your ego, not us, not this marriage. Just the fact that you can't stand the idea that I moved on before you. She tried to counter, to twist the narrative like she always did. I never cheated on you, Zach. I was just trying to figure things out. Figure things out? I repeated, shaking my head. Ashley, you were out every night, flirting with other guys while I was still trying to save this marriage. Don't stand here and tell me you were innocent. You wanted out, and now that I've taken steps to move on, you want to rewrite history? No thanks. Her face flushed red. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to throw her coffee at me, but instead, she leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. "Fine," she said coldly. "If that's how you feel, then I guess there's nothing left to say." "You're right," I said, standing up. "There isn't." As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The divorce hearing came and went without much drama. There wasn't much to divide, just some random furniture and a few kitchen gadgets no one really cared about. By the time we walked out of the courthouse, I felt like I could finally breathe again. Ashley, of course, wasted no time spinning her version of events. She told anyone who'd listened that I'd cheated, that I was the reason our marriage failed. But some people knew better. Ryan and a few others saw through her act and made it clear they weren't buying her story. It didn't matter anyway. I wasn't looking back. After the divorce, life got simpler. I moved into a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I had space to think, to rebuild. Amber was a big part of that. We kept seeing each other, and what started as casual drinks and late-night conversations turned into something more. She wasn't just a distraction anymore. She was real, honest, supportive in a way I hadn't realized I needed. One night, a few months after the divorce was finalized, Amber and I were sitting on my couch, flipping through vacation ideas on my laptop. "All right," she said, grinning. "If you could go anywhere right now, where would it be?" "The ocean," I said without hesitation. "Somewhere warm, somewhere quiet." Her eyes lit up. "Let's do it," I laughed. "You're serious?" "Why not?" she said, nudging me. "We both deserve a break. Let's pack our bags and go." And so, we did. A week later, we were on the road, heading for the coast. No plans, no expectations, just the two of us, ready to enjoy the freedom we'd both fought so hard to find. As we stood on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, I realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's expectations. I wasn't worried about proving myself or trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. I was just me, and that was enough. Amber slipped her hand into mine, and I smiled. The past was behind me. The future was wide open, and in that moment, standing by the ocean with her, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.